Good afternoon. Had to check my watch. And I caught just the tail end of the worship service. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and welcoming us as you so warmly this morning, this afternoon. And it's my blessing to be here and thankful for this opportunity to assist you in any way that we possibly can, either directly today or in follow-up with a specific question or specific issue. I work for the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, and we don't directly do a whole lot other than manage shelter at home. But what we do a lot of is coordination with FEMA and our other state and local parish partners to make sure that every available opportunity and program that we have is being implemented to the maximum flexibility that we can and helping as many people as we can. Senator Barrow was absolutely correct. There are some things that government can do, and there's some things that government can't do. And I'm thankful for our churches, for our volunteer organizations that have gone above and beyond, whether coming in from out of state or just crossing the street and helping a neighbor as a part of the recovery process. Oh, I need to stand up. Let me stand up. Y'all heard everything so far. I don't have to start over, right? Okay, right. Very good. Very good. So all of that has been such a blessing to so many people that may not have gotten to the point that they are today had it not been for a neighbor, had it not been for a church, had it not been from a volunteer organization to come in from out of state and fill in all of those gaps that we all run into through the recovery process. The other thing that I want to say is that it's a miracle that we didn't have more loss of life. When you look at what was happening with the flooding, when the flooding occurred, the way that it occurred, how fast it came, we all should just be thankful that we did not have more loss of life than we did. So now let's fast forward a few weeks, and we're in the middle of trying to figure out what recovery looks like. And so this afternoon, I'm not going to say a whole lot other than to be able to help you hopefully answer some questions. But I want to just remind you of a few things. First is, as it relates to the government programs that we're talking about, there's no one-button solution that works for everybody and does everything that we need it to do. We wish that we had that option, but we don't. So what ends up happening is it's like putting together the puzzle, and you've got some pieces, and you're trying to figure out what pieces are left to be filled in. And those pieces, unfortunately, may be slightly different from the person that lives next door to you or down the street or across town, because we're all kind of in individual situations. And so that makes this difficult. But you've got to be patient, and you've got to be persistent. You can't stop asking the questions. You can't stop demanding the right answers. You can't stop working on your own behalf and with all of us to make sure that you get all of the opportunities for recovery that you need. And then there are times when you've got to be patient and allow those programs to work. We wish they were faster. We wish that we could just serve everybody at the same time, but that's not always possible. Let me just give you a quick overview of some of those programs. First is you should register with FEMA for individual assistance. Raise your hand if you've registered with FEMA. All right, very good. So register with FEMA. They will come out and inspect. They will go through some documentation pieces with you, and they will send you a letter acknowledging what they can do or what questions that they have. There'll be some opportunity to talk specifically about that. You should consider applying for shelter at home. Shelter at home is not the be-all, end-all. It is not going to make you whole. It is not going to put back what you had. But it can provide an opportunity for someone who is not able to be at home to have a safe sanitary space in their own home so that they can move back home, move back to their own community, let their kids be back in the same school as they figure out what the next step are. It's limited. We need to acknowledge that. We need to have realistic expectations, but it's an option that we should consider, and we have some people here today that can help you with some of those questions as they come up. You should, if you have flood insurance, you should file a claim with your flood insurance company and they should send an adjuster out to your property to walk through what that looks like. Some of you may have only had flood insurance on the structure and not on the contents. Some of you may have had both. Obviously, a good many people in this event, not just in this area, but everywhere, didn't have flood insurance. And so that's one of those things that makes this different for each of us. And then the last thing is that you should talk to SBA. There is nothing in that conversation with SBA about what they can do for you to help fill in the gaps that's going to require you to do anything. But having the conversation with them may open up additional doors and additional opportunities that you need to be aware of. And even if you apply for the loan, and even if they approve you for a loan, you're still in control of how much and when and how that works for you. But it's a conversation that you should have, and you shouldn't just say, well, that's a loan, I don't want a loan. At this point, let's put the options on the table and figure out what works. And then the last thing that I would say is that one of the things that's important at this stage in the process is for you to get your property cleaned out, gutted out, and let it dry out while you figure out what the next stages are. Our governor has made some requests to the president, and the president has forwarded on those requests to Congress. Our congressional delegation is working on our behalf to bring some additional options to the table that are not presently things that we can utilize today. We need to know more about what that looks like. We need to know more about what those options are going to do and what that funding can do for us before we rush into something and figure out, a month from now, well, if I would have known that was coming, I would have waited. I'm not telling you that we're going to be waiting forever, but I am saying that the first goal is to get the house gutted out and let it dry out, and then we figure out what comes next after that. So I'm happy to be here today, happy to help you in any way that I can, and look forward to some dialogue as we go through some questions. Thank you.
Next, the logical would be IA. Yeah. Can you hear me with this? My name's Sonny Motley. I'm part of the individual housing program. You all, the folks that registered, may I see a show of hands of folks that have registered again, please? See, we're going to make you do something here today. All right. Now, those who have not registered, if there is nothing will happen, this is a process that will allow you to get into the system for additional FEMA assistance. So if you've not registered, we don't know that you're out there. So we want to make it easy for you to register. You can go to any one of our disaster recovery centers. We have a list of those, and it's a very easy process. You can do it by calling the 1-800-621-3362 number, easy as well. And as this gentleman said, once you are into the system, you will receive an inspection. Those of you who are already registered, you can explain that as well. FEMA contract inspector will come out, take a look at your damages, and you'll be receiving documentation to know the next step. Now, one of the things I want to caution you on, and I bet some of you had this happen, is you may receive a letter that says you're not eligible. That happen to anybody? Okay. Lots of times it's a little thing. By law, FEMA can't pay you for something someone else is going to pay you for. So if we came to inspect your property and we saw a certain amount of damage and we see that you do have insurance, then we need to know what your insurance company paid for. That's the first line of defense is your insurance. That's why you and I pay these higher insurance premiums, is to help us during times like this. So you want to get them involved in that as well. But what would happen, the next logical step, would you would visit a disaster recovery center along with that supplement, the answer that the insurance company gives you. We're going to cover this, and this. It's called a settlement letter. You'd bring that to the disaster recovery center, and we would then send that off for you right there. We can fax that off for you right there. And if there are any other items FEMA would consider that we may be able to help you with. You can always appeal. Any decision that FEMA has, you can appeal. To appeal, you have to do that within 60 days of a letter that you receive that tells you why you're not eligible for a certain thing. So if you appeal, and we encourage that, you need to provide us documentation that shows why you are appealing. It's your government. We don't want to say, well, I just disagree and that's that. You got to give us documentation, and we can, up to including sending another inspector out to look. Maybe we missed something, and that does happen from time to time. So I would recommend, if you haven't registered, please do. I would echo the shelter in place. We can provide documentation, and I know it's up to $15,000. The inspector would come out and make the basic repairs to your home so you can actually live in the house and while you're continuing on with your further repairs. Now, that program helps you in addition to anything that FEMA helps you with. You do not have to register with FEMA to receive that program, to be entered in that program. We would highly recommend that you do register with FEMA. This gentleman is going to talk about the SBA portion, and FEMA, again, is a process. If you have damage to your personal property, and I've ridden these streets, and anybody that lives around here, I can vouch for you got damage to your personal property. FEMA needs you to go through the SBA process first, and then if you are turned down for the loan or decide not to take the loan, then it will be sent back to FEMA for us to consider the personal property damages that we saw whenever we inspected your property. That make sense? Okay. There are are anybody receiving rental assistance now to find another place to live? I know they're hard to find a place, and that's why we have the other programs such as the shelter in place. We have the transitional housing. We have mobile homes. Have anybody requested a mobile home for your property? Okay. Does anybody have a mobile home on their property yet? Okay. That process it has a lot of arms to it. There's permitting, there's licensing, there's electrical changes and things like that, and we're working on that, and it's really starting to roll now. This disaster is the largest disaster we've seen since, I think, Sandy. We have had over close to 150,000 registrants. They're still coming in at about 250 a day or better, registering for FEMA assistance. So some folks just said, well, I think I could handle it, and they didn't register, and they get into it, and they know that, gosh, this is a big thing, and we need some help. We'll be here. Are we going to stay a little bit afterwards to answer specific questions? We can do that for a little bit, but hold your questions, and I think we're going to do a Q&A at the end of this, and I'll be happy to field any questions that you might have. What I'd like to do is turn it over to Garth now from SBA and let him kind of pick up where I left off.
Thank you, Sonny, and thanks for having us here today. Appreciate your time. So Sonny and Casey have both sort of described how the federal disaster assistance and the state working with our federal agencies are trying to find all the solutions to try to get people as close to pre-disaster recovery as possible. So SBA, maybe most of you have heard of the Small Business Administration, but most people, until they're hit by a disaster, don't realize that the organization I work for within the SBA is called the Office of Disaster Assistance. And the Office of Disaster Assistance has been helping homeowners, renters, of course businesses, private nonprofit organizations recover from disasters since the 1950s, actually. And we do that in the form of low interest, long-term recovery loans for both homes, the primary residence of a homeowner, for personal property for homeowners and renters, and for business assets, furniture, fixtures, equipment. We also offer small business owners what's called economic injury funding, some funds because you're hit by a disaster, you might have lost your biggest customer, you haven't been able to do regular business, and your working capital funds are impacted. So we help the whole spectrum, but it is a process, and the way this works is the number one step, as Sonny mentioned, is register with FEMA. And people can do that. I see this number in my sleep. It's 800-621-3362 or 800-621-FEMA. Anybody can do that easily on a phone. It's about a 15-minute phone call, maybe a little longer depending on the questions, the details of your family. But you can also do that online at disasterassistance.gov. That's the main portal to start the process. When homeowners and renters register with FEMA and all businesses, private nonprofits, then that information that's taken by FEMA is automatically referred to SBA. Electronically, we work hand in hand. We get the basic contact information. Not all homeowners and renters are referred because some folks are unemployed. And how can they take on a loan? They've been unemployed before the disaster, or they're on a very limited fixed income and they have family to take care of. So there's certain criteria that FEMA looks at, and if people are below a certain level of income or have no income whatsoever, we're not going to make those individuals go through the loan process because there's no way they can qualify. So some individuals are not referred to SBA, they're automatically referred to other grants, which are called other needs assistance grants that FEMA offers and in conjunction with the state. But the vast majority of people, homeowners and renters, and all businesses are referred to SBA. And so we reach out to you individuals that are referred either by phone call, by email, and say, we are trying to help you fill out an application that's the best way possible. And we'll walk you through that process. So at all the recovery centers throughout Louisiana and East Baton Rouge Parish here, there's a number of them. We have our staff there ready to walk you through the application, help you fill it out online right there on the spot, take documents, answer your questions. So we work side by side with FEMA at all the recovery centers. We also have some recovery centers that are called business recovery centers. There may be a few business owners here, sole proprietors or running a company. And we have some business recovery centers that specialize helping a business owner apply because there's a little more paperwork involved. So the one thing that Casey mentioned and also mentioned by Sonny was, okay, insurance is the main protector against a disaster. But a lot of people had no expectation to be flooded here, and there was very little flood insurance comparatively in the communities that were hit. There was homeowners insurance, and this disaster was severe storms and flooding. So there could have been some trees that came down, wind-driven rain that came into your house, and that would be a homeowner policy claim. So you should talk to your homeowner's fire policy and make sure that there's not insurance coverage, even if it's a small amount. But one thing that we can do at SBA is we can get you some funds, low interest loan funds for homeowners and renters. The interest rate is as low as 1.563%. And the vast majority of people fall into that low market rate. Income may get a higher rate, which is 3.125. It's one of those two. And the vast majority get a rate of 1.563%. With a payment that can fit within your budget. It can be up to 30 years. And you control, as Casey mentioned, how much money you accept from us, if any. You apply, there's no cost to apply, there's no obligation to take any funds. It keeps an option open for you. So individuals register with FEMA, they may get some housing rental assistance, they may get some medical equipment funds, or they may have had some emergency needs that FEMA will give some grant money to, like instant repairs to just make something safe for people to deal with in their home. But then you're asked to apply with the SBA, and we'll look at your losses. We send out loss verifiers with our federal badges as well, and they'll try to determine what it will take to get you back to pre-disaster condition. So you filed a claim with your insurance, you've registered with FEMA and maybe got some grant money. You've applied with Shelter at Home program so you can get a safe area in your home, some temporary repairs, so you can be at your home to protect it, to walk through the recovery process. And then you're applying with SBA, and you can take some funds as you want it, as you're ready to start rebuilding. You talk to your local officials, make sure you get the permits that are needed. You're finding out about, whether your home has to be meet some special requirements due to the flood insurance program, or depending on how much damage you had. That's a process through your local officials. So it's a step-by-step process, but keep your options open, because even if nobody wants, a lot of people I've been talking to, it feels like you're being forced to borrow money because you were hit by a disaster. I've gotten that, that concern. It just feels like the government is forcing me to take on a loan because I was hit by a disaster. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody expected this, but it is one of the best options that are available to get as close to pre-disaster condition. Under certain circumstances, if you had substantial damage and you have a note on your home, there's provisions within our program that we would look at for those individuals to see if you could put your regular mortgage together with your SBA loan. It's called refinancing. So if you go through the process, if you meet certain criteria, substantial damage, you should talk to your loan officer, which are direct federal employees that work for us. They're not through banks or anything like that. Some individuals use the money from us to relocate out of a flood zone as well, into their community maybe, hopefully somewhere in their same community, but out of a special flood hazard area. Under certain criteria, you can do that as well. So what I really want you to do is keep this option open. There's a deadline approaching of October 13th to register with FEMA, apply with SBA. You might just want money only for your personal property. You think you can get your home repaired, you had a little insurance. You might need a car that was flooded. You might only need $1,000 to repair your car. You control what you take from SBA, and it can be a payment that you can afford, because some people don't have a lot of room in their budget to take on a loan. So you're in control of the process, but keep the option open. Utilize, ultimately, many people are going to get grants from FEMA, might utilize the Shelter at Home program for temporary repairs, may get some insurance money or may not, and they're going to get a loan from us. And then those individuals that can't afford a loan, we're not going to offer a loan to people that are going to be underwater. They're not going to be able to pay the loan, because that's just creating more problems. Those individuals are referred back. If we can't offer a loan for lack of repayment or some issue on your credit and things like that for previous debts, we then refer those individuals back to FEMA, and they may get more grants. So by following our process, those individuals that know they can't accept any loans, they just can't afford it, those individuals are going to be referred back to FEMA and looked at for other grants. So it's all just one step after another to get through this process, and you can do it simultaneously while you're working with your insurance company. It doesn't have to be settled. We can get you some funds to start moving forward. If insurance pays you money for all the things we loaned you for, that money from the insurance can go to pay off your loan with us. And with our loans, there's typically a 5-month deferral period before you have to make payments. So we want you to get moving forward, obviously, and not lose the opportunity. So the only other thing I'll mention is these disaster recovery centers throughout the community are open. There's one down at the end of Airline Boulevard at the big Celtic Media Studio. It's a big, huge air-conditioned building they've offered up, and it's FEMA and a bunch of our people. We're closing loans there. We're helping people ongoingly fill out the application. It's great to have other people from the state. The DMV is there when I was there the other day. There's people from lots of organizations trying to give people help and solutions. And so utilize those while they're open, because you can get that face-to-face help and you just don't feel like you're in it alone. I have some documents here that give you the details of our program and how to apply. It can be done at home on your own computer, but the face-to-face help I highly recommend. And last thing I'll just say is this is, as Sonny said, this is a big disaster. Our loan program, as of this morning, has approved over $580 million of low-interest loans to homeowners and businesses. So we're talking well over $500 million already in a month and a half. And, you know, FEMA has helped. There's been a lot of money that's being dispersed on the street to get people moving forward. But, you know, it is big, but that doesn't mean, the key thing that I want to convey to you, even if your needs are you feel are smallest, you're not taking money away from anybody else that was hit harder than you by using our program, by taking FEMA money. The money is allocated for these disasters. This is a big disaster, so don't not register because you're afraid you're going to take money from somebody that needs it more than you. A lot of people, I've heard that comment, so do not worry about that. There is, whether you borrow $1,000 or get a small grant, it's still going to be money there to help other people that were hit harder. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. Ezra McDaniels with the Shelter at Home program. I think Casey mentioned earlier the specifics of the Shelter at Home program. I know you're going to have a lot of questions about it, but the basis of the Shelter at Home program is to get you back in a decent, safe, and sanitary condition. Now, are you going to have your granite tubs and your nice hardwood floors? Those are more long-term recovery strategies. What we're about, we want to make sure that you're able to get back home, okay, so that you can get back in your communities, so your children can go back to school, and we wanted to provide you with the basic that you need in order to sustain yourself until your more long-term recovery strategies become available. So that's all I'll say about that right now, Senator, and if they have any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Good afternoon. Hello. I'm Brian Bartley. I'm with the National Flood Insurance Program, which is a program that's administered by FEMA. The National Flood Insurance Program is a little bit unique from some of the other programs in that it's always there. It's there when there's a disaster. It's there when there is not a presidentially declared disaster. And the other thing about it is it's based on a agreement between the local community that participates in the program and the National Flood Insurance Program. So each community that participates in the program agrees that there is a need for it, and they agree to adopt a set of rules which apply to new development and redevelopment of structures within the community. Now, these rules apply within specific areas throughout the community we refer to as special flood hazard areas. Now, what the community gets in return for that agreement is the ability to have access to the flood insurance program. And what the program provides is for contents coverage on residential, which would include rental units, up to $100,000 of coverage for contents. For structural coverage on residential, it provides up to $250,000 per structure. Now, then there's the commercial part of the program, or non-residential part, which would provide up to $500,000 of coverage for contents and up to $500,000 of coverage for the structure. Now, when there is a disaster, a flood, then there's some things that need to be done as a part of the operation of the program. And so you may have heard from your local officials. Each community has one. We call them a floodplain administrator, that there are permitting requirements. If you happen to be in the special flood hazard area, your community will likely require that you get a permit in order to repair your structure. And they may tell you that your damage hits a certain threshold, which is set by the community, and as such, there's going to be some other requirements. They refer to that as substantial damage. Our gentleman from SBA also referred to that a minute ago. So when that requirement is imposed by the local official, there is an additional benefit on the flood insurance policy as long as you have not exceeded the statutory limit of $250,000 of $30,000 per structure. This $30,000 can be combined with the SBA program. It's not subject to the receipt or lack of receipt of some other benefit. And if there are mitigation programs that the community embarks upon, in many cases they will ask that that $30,000 be included with funds for mitigation. But the mitigation programs are something that will be worked out between the community and the state. The National Flood Insurance Program does not necessarily direct that mitigation. Now, the other thing is if you are told that you have substantial damage, the local official may tell you that before you can recover the structure, you have to meet the current regulations. However, there is a special provision for the shelter-in-place program, which allows for temporary occupation of a structure that has been determined to be substantially damaged, and it won't affect the compliant nature with regard to the permitting process or the National Flood Insurance Program's cooperative agreement between the program and the community. So I've also brought some literature on our program, the coverages available, and some other information about mold and things like that, and help with your claim process and so forth. And I'll be here after for a few minutes to answer any questions you might have. And one final thing, we are in receipt of notice that there will be an extension of time to file your flood insurance claim. Normally, your flood insurance policy requires that you provide a statement of loss within 60 days from the time of the loss. And there has been an extension granted of 60 days. Now, I would like to encourage you not to use that extension unnecessarily. If you have the ability to go ahead and do your statement of loss, go ahead and do that. Get the funds going so that you can begin your recovery. That does not prevent you from claiming additional damages which may be discovered in the process of recovering your structure. You can go ahead and file for those additional damages against your flood insurance policy if they were not foreseen at the time the initial statement of loss was made.
Okay, great. Awesome. So we appreciate that, and now we will take questions and answers. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can take one more mic and see if I can get someone to help me to do the Q&A. Okay, this is Julie Harris from AECOM, and her friend or colleague here is Ezron, is from Shelter at Home program. So we have one question right here. And before we take that question, I do want to say that if you still need to have your home gutted, please let us know at the end of the meeting. I have two young ladies that are in the back and we can take your information. But we do have AmeriCorps here, and they are actually helping to help individuals to still gut their homes. And if you have or you need to file an appeal, or if the paperwork just seems to be really just oversome or cumbersome for you, we do have the DRC centers, but we also have Southern University that's assisting individuals with that. Okay, so yes, ma'am.
How y'all doing today? Thank y'all for coming. My name is Helen Christopher, my husband also, Derek Christopher. I live off of 3565 Green Tree Drive. This was my whole subdivision. I was on a cruise. I left on the 7th, came back on the 14th. He was like, "What you gonna do?" I said, "I'm going to see the house." He said, "You're gonna drown." I had no idea. They wouldn't let me through. I got a boat, and I went through, and this is the pictures I received. I took. He could tell you I didn't have any clothes, anything, because we wasn't at home. We couldn't save anything. Insurance, we have that. $132,000. I have my statement of loss. I have my thing that says I have $175,000 damage after the $5,000 deductible. Personal property of $40,000. We have $70,000 personal property after the $5,000 deductible. Have my substantial letter. Applied for SBA. Applied with FEMA. There's no one to tell us what to do with our house. I have flood certificate saying the base flood was 49. My house sit on a slab. They saying go 1 foot above base flood, and that's all they told us at the permit office. They're not telling us when we can start or what we really have to do. I also contacted an elevation company that lift the homes. A 2-year process, possibly, to lift the home on the slab. Could cost up to $200,000. Our house is 2790 square feet. Could cost up. What are we supposed to do? Where do we go from here? Besides this meeting, and we did every process, what are we supposed to do next? Can anybody help me?
So, thank you for giving us the recap of your situation. I'm glad to hear that you had insurance. Have you gotten any advance payment or payment from the insurance company yet? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, I think there are some specifics to your situation that we may need to talk offline about how to navigate some of those specific situations. I would say generally, in your situation, we need to make sure that you have some interim housing so that you've got some time to figure out, because what they told you, and I don't want to get into whether it's going to be 2 years or not, but the reality is it's going to take some time to figure this out. That much we know. And some of the things that the governor and the president and the congressional delegation are working on may come in to benefit and either speed up or give additional options on how that's going to work. Unfortunately, we can't say today exactly what that's going to look like and when that's going to happen and how much. So we can talk offline about some of the specifics, but I would say generally we need to find out a good, stable interim housing solution while you figure out, okay, this is how much flood insurance is going to contribute. This is what, if anything, FEMA can do, what your SBA options are, and then you've got that information in front of you to figure out, okay, these are the resources that I have to take the next step. As it relates to rebuilding and potentially having to elevate, and what the city parish is going to, assuming that that subdivision is within the city parish, what they're going to require you to do or not require you to do. Again, we want to make sure that you've got something stable to live in for now while we figure out what those options are. We all wish that we could say this is exactly what needs to happen and when and how much money is available to do it. But again, individual situations may vary, and I want to talk to you offline about making sure that we've got that you've got the right information to be able to understand what your options are as you move forward. And certainly all of us, I know that I speak for everybody, it's certainly sad to hear the specifics of your situation as we know that probably is a story that's, and to some extent, shared by almost everybody here.
I would just like to add a couple things. Based on what you described, it sounds like your home is in a special flood hazard area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is a kind of a prime example. Their home was determined to be significantly damaged. Therefore, to meet the NFIP flood insurance requirements, it may be required to be elevated. So, as was mentioned, your policy, since you didn't hit that max, you didn't have 250 coverage, you may be eligible, if you decide to rebuild, if you can go forward with that, you may be eligible for the NFIP increased cost of compliance, ICC money, which it's part of the policy and it could be up to $30,000 if you did decide to elevate. But your example is what I talked about a little bit ago, somebody that might decide to relocate out of a special flood hazard area, therefore potentially eliminating the requirement for flood insurance. You know, you can potentially use the funds that we're providing to relocate to a different location. And then you would have time to just deal with your property and you might sell it off. You would ultimately sell that property off at some point, and that money could help pay down the loan with us. But you have a period of time, matter of years to do that, and it's part of what we would look at for potential relocation. You're basically, you know, involuntarily relocating because you're having to raise your house. These requirements are being put on you. So just as you go forward, okay, look. Okay, so every letter from SBA, one thing I will mention to the group is that if you do get initially denied and things like that, there is a period of time, you have 6 months for reconsideration, but like Casey mentioned, your individual case has a lot of moving parts, and I'll talk to you a little bit afterwards too. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Poe. I'm with FEMA in individual assistance. And I just wanted to add, as you have already applied, you are in the process or can be in the process for rental assistance that can provide you funds to move someplace else, whether you want to rent an apartment, whether you want to rent another home, however you want to address your living situation. And then there's the mobile home program that might be the mobile home program that might be helpful to you. But have you received a phone call yet from anyone to find out what your interest might be? Okay. And then just recently, I think it was this morning, I saw some information because there could be others of you who have received a phone call and expressed an interest in either talking with someone about a mobile home or seeing if you have enough property, at your current home site or at a commercial property. And there may have been a significant, not really significant, but more time than you were expecting to hear a response back from us. And they are planning to start making telephone calls to you. So if you've expressed an interest in a mobile home, then we will be calling back to give you a better time frame or to let you know that you haven't been forgotten. It's really frustrating, I'm sure, to be there wanting to move forward with your recovery and not being able to know where you are in the process. So I wanted to be sure that you knew that. And if you have specific questions about your rental assistance, found a place that you want to rent and you want to know how to get additional rental assistance, you can go to the Disaster Recovery Center and they can explain that to you and make certain that you get the letter to request continued rental assistance for up to 18 months from the time of the declaration. So it's 18 months of assistance. And that's what normally the assistance is provided for. So that would give you some time to be able to figure out what you want to do with your home and to be able to move forward with that and feel comfortable that you're going to have a place to stay.
Before we take the next question, I just want to say, I know Mr. Tingle said this earlier, because we are pushing and really looking for additional funding to come down for different programs that we don't even know yet what they may be considered or called, to assist individuals that have unique cases and unique situations. And I know that I've spoken with the governor specifically about seniors having to rebuild and restart all over and really trying to create something for them. So 3 P's that I heard earlier was persistent, process, and perseverance. And so I just would like to say that and encourage you with that. But no, and please get the numbers of everyone up here, get their contact information, including mine, which I know you guys can find me. But we are here for the long haul to help you through the entire process. So next question, right here.
A program called the Multifamily Lease and Repair Program. Now, what that does is that makes a connection between FEMA and landowners who may have apartment complexes, multifamily locations, and as you know, we call them resources, housing, places to live. There are very, very few. So FEMA's looking to assist the landowners to repair those properties so that we can then get folks that require housing while they repair their original homes. And I have the phone number. I'll give it to you if you'd like. If you know anybody that has property that FEMA may want to call, it is 225-382-1464, 225-382-1464, and it's called the Multifamily Lease and Repair Program, and they can give you the details on that.
I have a mic. My question is directed to the shelter at home. I received a phone call on Thursday night, and he said he'll be at my house on Friday, and I explained to the guy, I said, well, we're not going to be there on Friday because the notice is short, and we already had other plans. And on top of that, I told him, I said, we just finished gutting the house. They still have mold and everything in the house. And so on Saturday, me and my wife, we left. I got a phone call about 9 o'clock on my phone. When I looked at my phone, it was a guy. So I called the phone back, and the guy told me, he said, yeah, I'm with All Star Electric out of Metairie. I just left your house. I said, well, sir, how did you get in my house? I said, the front door locked, the back door locked. He said, well, I went through the back door. I went through your gate, and I opened one of the doors in the back. I said, well, I already called him and told him that I wasn't going to be there. And I said, well, why would you go in my home if you know I'm not there? Well, you signed a release for me to come in. I said, I signed a release saying that someone had to be there when you get there. And so he said, I just left your house. It was 10 o'clock at night. So me and my wife, we stopped what we doing. We rushed back to the house. He pried the back door open, went through my back gate, and he put some electrical boxes in there. Then when I called to try to talk to them to get some sense of this here, you know, I was treated like, you know, hey, well, you nothing. I came and did a job. You get with the people with the construction company. I said, well, okay, then. Just so happened, Senator came by, and I explained that situation to her. Not only did I feel violated because I have a wife, and we still haven't gotten everything out of the house. And I'm very disgusted because he did that to me, and he didn't give me any respect as a homeowner. And he just barged in my house like that, you know. And so now he's calling me every day talking about, do you want me to bring a door? No, I don't want you to bring a door. Actually, I don't want you nowhere around my house because you open my house for burglars to come in. And in Park Forest, we have people that's preying on people that's been through this disaster. And I go home, find my back gate open. My house is wide open. So I might sound a little frustrated right now because I am. And it's my job to protect not only my home, but to protect my wife. She don't even want to go in the house because she's thinking somebody in the house. You know, And so now he calling me, telling me he's going to come back out tomorrow. I said, well, we need to talk to somebody because I don't want you at my house at all because you broke in my house. And that's my concern.
Thank you so much. We certainly apologize for those issues. I believe I actually spoke to you myself, Ezron, working through Senator Barrow's office as well. And I will let you know that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable under the program. As you can imagine, we're dealing with a little over 115 contractors. So we have 9 general contractors, and of course, there are many, many subcontractors under those general contractors doing work. I believe this particular issue was, the way that it came back to me was that there was a miscommunication on the team. It should have stopped when you informed the original group that you were not going to be there. They are not to go into the property unless there's express consent. So I don't want to give the impression that we are to enter your homes without you being there or without your consent. That's what the legal right of entry form is for, but it does not give just it does not give us the legal process to go in your home when you're not available. So particular to that, I apologize for that. And that will not. We are putting precautions in place to make sure that that does not happen to anyone that signs up under the Shelter at Home program. This program is designed to give you immediate assistance so that you can get back into your properties. We want to do it right. We are there for the communities, and we're going to make sure that those precautions are in place to do so to protect you and your families.
And along those lines, Mr. McDaniels, if that does happen to someone, I know that you're taking every precaution, and I know that the governor has made it very clear that he wants this program to be successful, and they're evaluating it daily. But if it does happen, what should someone do? What should be the next steps? Because just so happened, I just happened to come here, and he shared it with me, and I was able to give you guys a call. But what number do they call, or who do they contact?
Absolutely. You can call the regular number. Let me give it to you here, 1-800-927-0216. And there's an option 3 there to respond with any complaints that you may have. And I guarantee you, we will get back with you. We want this process to be as fluid as possible. Again, that number is 1-800-927-0216. Press option 3. And we will make sure that we address your concerns to the extent that we can.
Thank you. There's a question over here.
Good afternoon. I know everyone is very, very anxious to get back into their home, but I don't think a lot of people realize how contaminated Category 3 flood water is. I know someone who has a pig farm in their, not in their backyard, but a pig farm is close to their home. I know a lot of people who live in the same neighborhood with plants. We even saw on the news where they had caskets floating in the water. So this water is very, very, very contaminated. So let's say someone wanted to sell in the future, or they wanted to be assured that their home is contaminant free. Is there a certificate, or is there some type of documentation that homeowners need before they start rebuilding to make sure that their home is contaminant free? And when they do decide to sell, that they can provide those documents at the closing table when they get ready to sell? Because I know everybody is anxious, but this is a process. This is not a typical construction project. This is a disaster recovery project. So I don't know if there's documents, maybe certificates or a bill of health certificates that people need to get before they start back rebuilding, because there's other contaminants besides mold that you can't see with the human eye. So I don't know if there's.
I'll be the go-to, we don't know the answer, so we'll take your information back, designee. I think that's a very good point. I know that there are disclosures related to flood. I'm not aware of specific disclosures related to things outside of that. So let us talk, and it may be jurisdiction specific as well. So it may not be the same answer in Zachary or Denham Springs as it is in East Baton Rouge Parish. And so let us take that information back. Make sure that we talk afterwards so that we know how to get in touch with you, and we'll route that answer back through the senator to make sure that that information gets out, so that whether it's you interested in potentially buying a property, or whether it's you interested in potentially selling your property, you have some idea of what that will look like.
Okay, all right.
I know they was talking about the FEMA mobile homes, and I had a phone call. I did the interview, and someone was supposed to come out and survey to see where they would put it. And I waited, and there's no number to call to find out what's going on. But I heard on the news that the mayor of Baker haven't approved the FEMA trailers for Baker, and I'm wondering why.
There is a process, a time frame process, as I said a little bit ago. There's once you are determined eligible for a mobile home, and the criteria for the mobile home would be $17,000 damage as seen by the FEMA contract inspector for home repair when they came in. Now, we also have folks that were renting property also, not owners, but people that live in apartments and things like that. And there are criteria for those as well. A renter has no property to place a mobile home on, so they would be offered a commercial site to go to. I'm gonna get to the question, but I've been wanting to say this as well. We have gone through and leased pads in mobile home parks and put our mobile homes in there. So usually a renter, someone that was renting, would be able to go there and go through the process of finding another place to live. Ma'am, there's a timing issue from the time that you or anyone is determined eligible. And you're right, the first step after that is to come out and look and see if the unit will fit on your property, physically fit on your property. And they look at things like sewer and where electrical will go, with water and setbacks and things like that. I'm not aware of the mayor not approving units on private site. I know that process is in gear and running right now. As Cindy said just a moment ago, we have implemented a procedure where someone will be calling and say, yes, you're in the system. We've not forgotten you. You're there. We're just so busy. We'll be getting to you. They'll set up an appointment for you to be there. There is a right of entry. We need your permission to come on your property. So there's a right of entry form that we'll need to get you to sign for us so we can do that. How long has it been since someone said that you were eligible for a mobile home? Ma'am? Close to a month. Can you and I speak after this is over and let me get some information for you, and I'll run that to ground for you? That's too long. Okay?
And I would like to add that I know that each municipality have different ordinances, and so in our normal ordinance, even in the city of Baton Rouge, you cannot put a regular trailer on certain lots. And so what EBR did was immediately the council came in and they actually relaxed those rules so that people could do that. It's my understanding that I believe that in the city of Baker, that has not happened. That ordinance that they have in place that will allow you to place a trailer on your lot is still in place. So that means that if you live in a residential area that is not deemed like for manufactured housing, then you cannot put one there. And so the first step or the next step, one of the things that may need to be done is actually meeting with the council or talking with the council about perhaps actually relaxing those rules during this period of time that would allow people to do that. I do know that the mayor is looking at setting up a temporary commercial site where there would be manufactured housing there that's specifically pretty much for the people of Baker and people that live a little bit more north of there. I did hear that, but we could talk a little bit more about that too.
While we're talking about mobile homes, if you receive a mobile home, if you're going to be offered a mobile home and you accept it, it's an up to 18-month program. You'll be licensed in to utilize that mobile home. We will send a group around to see you about every 30 to 45 days and make sure that if you're an owner, if you're moving forward with your repairs, if you happen to be someone who is renting, make sure that you're moving forward with trying to locate another place to live. I do want to reiterate this. For the for the FEMA rental assistance that you receive, you are able to rent a house if you can find one. You can rent an RV and put it in your yard and utilize your rental assistance for that. There is a what they call a recertification. If you utilize your rental assistance for housing and you need more, I think Cindy touched on it a little bit, you need to provide us how you spent that money, and so that we can offer, give you some additional funds to continue your places to live, a safe place to live while you are repairing your home.
I would like to ask Mr. William Daniels from the City of Baton Rouge, and he's here as the Chief Administrator of the City of Baton Rouge. I know we had one question regarding permits or something regarding permits, but if you would just come join us, I really appreciate you coming at late minute notice to be here. And if anybody have any questions regarding permitting, this would be our gentleman. I know somebody kind of asked something about that earlier, made a comment. Any more questions? I know I saw a hand. Oh, okay. Okay. So you did. Sorry.
Okay, my question is, if you apply for the mobile home, can you as well apply for the shelter in home? Okay.
Let me answer that. Basically, when we talk about interim housing, which means the housing that's going to be for the next 3 months or 6 months or a year as we figure out where we go from where we are today to where we need to be. There are basically at this point, three main options. The first is the rental assistance that FEMA provides, and most of you that got it already received the initial 2 months, and then what we were just talking about was in order to receive another month's allocation of that, you would have to show the receipts or the documentation that support that you spent the first 2 months either on a deposit and a first month's rent or 2 months' rent or something like that. In order to keep receiving that moving forward, you would have to be able to find a rental resource that works for you. We know just from attending these meetings and talking to people in the area that the flexibility on leasing terms and finding something that's month to month or something that works for you is very difficult. Most of the rental resources are not very in close proximity or near the impacted area. So a lot of those are on the other side of Baton Rouge or in another part of town. So that makes transportation and all of those things more difficult. So that's the first option, but as I just said, there's some limitations to that option, obviously. The second thing is shelter at home. And for those homes that shelter at home works for, and those families that shelter at home works for, to be able to create with a minimal amount of work, understanding that it's not going to fix and put things back the way that it was, allow somebody to move back into their own house and have a functioning kitchen, a functioning restroom, and living space, or the manufactured housing unit. And so those last two, shelter at home and manufactured housing unit, are really designed to be either or. Either we're going to be able to move back into our house with shelter at home and work out where we go from here, or we are able to put a manufactured housing unit on our own property, or we are able to be located in a commercial site that's not very far away that works for us. So those are intended to be a choice that you make. The way that I would propose that you do this, if it's me, is you talk to shelter at home. And you allow that inspector to come into your house and show you what it is that they can do and what it is that they can't do. And then you're able to make an informed choice at that point as that's something that works for me and my family, or no, it doesn't. That's not what I need, and that's not going to be something that works for me. Or it may be that Shelter at Home comes and looks at it and says, it would cost too much money to be able to do what we need to do, and you're not eligible. But talk to them and figure that out. And then when FEMA calls and talks to you about, hey, here's some rental resources, and they make that call to you, and you would tell them, no, I'm not able to find rental resources that work for me because it's too far away, or it's too expensive, or the lease terms are terms that don't work for me. I'm interested in a manufactured housing unit. I would say leave both options open, and then as you get to that point, figure out which decision makes the most sense for me. If I can get the manufactured housing unit on my own property, that may be better than Shelter at Home. But not everybody's going to have that option. In some people's instance, Shelter at Home is going to be a great solution because there wasn't a great deal of damage, or it was a 2-story house and the second story was not impacted. And so just getting the kitchen back working really allows you to have some stability. That's part of what makes this difficult, is there are options to choose from. But what we want to do is make sure that you get the right information so that you're able to make the informed decisions that work best for you and your family. Does that help? Okay.
Hi, thank you. You've answered basically 2 of my 3 questions, but speaking back to the Shelter at Home, I'm helping my elderly neighbor. We did get Volunteers of America to come in and gut the home. I did get a phone call on Friday stating that they'll come to inspect to see what they can do. My question is, with the $15,000 worth of renovations, some of the contractors I've been hearing are rumored that one contractor may be raising the price more. So as one contractor will do more, if I get this particular contractor, I may not get as more. I'm just wanting to know within that $15,000, what should I be able to see them do for him? Like, will it include like mold treatment, cabinetry, flooring, sheetrock? I know you said one room to live in, but how much?
Thank you for that question. Just to go back to the pricing, I do know that I need to hear more about that. Pricing should have been standardized. Okay, pricing should have been standardized. Now, when it comes to the cost estimating, once they get on site, they're different contractors, so they may come in and see what needs to be done under the program, and you may have varying estimates. However, the Shelter at Home program is going to provide you with an inspector, and that's an inspector that will come up with what we call an estimated cost of repair to do the property. Now, what should you expect? It doesn't necessarily confine you to one room. Okay, so that inspector is going to do a full evaluation of the property, just to make sure you have working outlets, look at your plumbing. Now we can do mold remediation, but not mold mitigation. And so we will take a look at the whole to make sure that you have our functioning air conditioning. To make sure if you need some level of cabinetry, or I'm not a contractor, so I'm just rolling off some of the things that are eligible under the program. So they'll take a look at the full gamut of services that can be provided under the program and provide the best cost estimate that meets the parameters of the program.
All right, and one last question is for myself. I was initially denied by FEMA. All of my neighbors except me lost everything. I was just considered, I lost my car, and there was very minimum, with buckling of the floors. I was initially denied by FEMA. I really didn't fight it, looking at the circumstance of everybody else who needed, because they came out very quickly. This weekend, I noticed when I was cleaning my son's room, the mold in the closet when I was cleaning. So the mold is, when they initially came, they couldn't find any tracing of water, but I have very high baseboards. I have like 7-inch baseboards. So when the air conditioner unit went out with the initial storm, now with the being warmer than normal, I guess the mold is starting to rise. What would be the process of me would I have to, get somebody to come in and just tell me every place where there's mold, or do I get FEMA to come back out and do another inspection?
Now, I can't speak for FEMA, but I can speak for Shelter at Home. Let me get your information. Have they done the initial inspection yet on your
FEMA-
property?
For FEMA, yes.
On Shelter at Home?
Shelter at Home is for my neighbor, yes,
Okay,
that was
okay.
taken care of.
Gotcha. Now, I can't speak on behalf of FEMA. Do we have a better answer as it relates to that?
We were in discussion about another.
Okay.
I think the gist of the question was when FEMA initially came out, they didn't catch some things as it relates to mold.
And I reported that my car was lost. I lost the car. We lost our AC unit, and it was just some minor flooring. But we applied right after to SBA. SBA denied because they said that FEMA declared that our home was not livable. So it's like we weren't really, we weren't in a bad condition, which we weren't compared to my neighbors, but, like I said, I'm now seeing mold rise in the closets.
So the question was, should she have FEMA come back out to actually reevaluate it? Or what would be the next steps?
Okay. What you would do is provide us with the information about your newly discovered damages, and then they can make the decision about whether it was seen, because oftentimes there are damages that our inspectors know are going to occur, even though it may not be visible at that moment, and he may have already addressed that. So I don't want to say it's done, but be sure and let us know. If you want to give me your information at the end of the meeting, we can check with your file and give you a call back. Or you can call the FEMA 800 number or visit the Recovery Center, and they can talk with you about that.
Okay, thank you.
The one last thing that I would add is that if it sounds like, and I don't know what the current situation is, but it sounds like it's a problem that's going to get worse if we don't do something now in terms of getting some of that wet material out and let it dry out, because we don't want the mold to continue to get worse. You don't want mold in the walls. And so if you need assistance with mucking out and locating and finding out where that damage actually is, then let's talk afterwards so that we make sure we get you some help to get, let's get things safe while we're figuring out where the money may come from.
I have a question on Shelter and Home program. If you have a contract already and you send your contract out there and we sign off, do we sign off on that $15,000 to get it?
Let me talk a little bit about the process. Now, when they do the initial inspection, it should be an inspector representing the program, should be the homeowner, and it should be the contractor on site.
Right.
And as I understand, that homeowner does sign off on that inspection based on the scope of work determined at that time.
Okay, so I have a contract already, then the shelter program brings in another contractor to come behind the contract we already have. So if they place this in a house and already have a contractor, why should I sign off on $15,000 and use it? Can I get that $15,000 and take it and use it to let that contractor already have to finish doing what he's doing?
Now I understand your question.
Yeah.
This is a FEMA program that's not designed to do that.
Okay.
And so there are some parameters based on the Shelter at Home program that the federal government will not allow us to do.
Okay,
So the answer to your question is no.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to bring that out because it's causing
That's
a
a
lot
good
of
question.
confusion. And, you got a contract and then they come out to put that in. The contractor already working, so he got to do double work. And so I was, trying to see if sign the 15, give it to us, let us finish bringing that contractor and to let him finish doing the work. If you're going to give the $15,000, I'm just throwing it out there. I know y'all have
Right. Logically, it may appear to make sense, but as I've stated, it is a federal program,
Okay.
and it's not going to allow us
All
to
right.
do that at this time.
all right, I just wanted to ask that.
I just want to ask this here. I was told that FEMA would come out and inspect your house and make sure that it was mold-free. Now, I found out in Walker that the city is doing that for the people out there to make sure that they are mold-free. I called for out here in Baton Rouge to find out if our city council would come out or our city would come out, and I was told that they would not come out. So we want to find out that our homes are mold-free, and get that certificate if we can to live in.
Yes, if you are ready to do some work in your house and you need a permit to come out and do that, we will then come out and inspect and look for mold as part of that process. We just don't have enough people to send everybody to every home in Baton Rouge and start looking for mold. But when you get started and you're ready, and our people, well, have you applied for a permit? If you've applied for a permit, we have moisture meters. We'll come out and test for moisture for you.
Okay, thank you. Follow up? Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a,
I think Pastor may have asked the question. Shelter at Home I would like to address this too. They did come out to my home, and I guess I'm trying to figure out when they tell you they can put a sink in or whatever needs to be done to have you stay there for a minimum amount of time. Everything that I was told I was getting, when I got ready to rebuild, it was going to be taken out. So the question that I guess I would like to ask is, if we're trying to save money, to me it doesn't make sense to put it in and then have it taken out. So if you're going to put it in, let that be part of that money that's going to be able to be a stability in your home. Is there something that you can kind of help me out? I just don't understand it.
A lot of questions along that line, and it certainly makes sense. You know, you would want the contractors, if you already have a contractor, to dovetail with our contractor. Unfortunately, those processes are mutually exclusive. And the program right now, as it is designed, is not set up for that. And so I can understand where it can appear to be a waste of resources, but the idea of the program is to make sure that it is an option to get you back in your property. I know that may not be the best answer or answer your question, but I'm answering it to the best of my ability based on the federal parameters. She has a follow-up?
Go ahead. No, and I guess what you're saying, I do understand, but to have me stay there and then come and take it back out, I'm still being inconvenienced having to go back double. That's all.
Now, are you saying that your contractor is already there working? I got you. I got you. I think at the end of the day, the goal, and let's look at the main objective of Shelter at Home, and again, it doesn't work for everybody, is to try to get you back quickly. Now, that's not to say there aren't going to be some inconveniences, because I hear you. You may have to leave when your long-term repairs come, you get your contract in there, or some other assistance comes down the line. I'm sure you're probably going to have to move out of that property, but the design of this program is to get you back immediately.
okay, it's concerning the Shelter at Home program also. I'm one of the coordinators here at IFA, the liaison between the offices, the disaster officers and the members here. And feedback from me and pictures is that some of the material that's being used is substandard material. Now, I saw a picture where there was a piece of sheet rock put up with footprints all over it. Then bathroom commode was used that was already there, that dirty and already, and I was told that all they was going to do is put a wax ring around it. Okay? You're supposed to make sure that everything is clean, sanitized, you know, for me to be livable. then you put a wall between the bathroom and the kitchen. You put 2 pieces of sheetrock up and a big crack, a 1-inch crack is in between there. And then you're only going to do 1 bedroom. Am I understanding right? 1 bedroom, is that what you're going to do? And I have 2 children in the house or 3 children in the house. That's all you're going to do. And then you can look straight through the house and you're going to put 1 wall up, just 1 wall. Is that what you're going to do? Are all contractors doing the same thing? I don't think the money is being used wisely. Because and then you have a window that's broken, that's out, and then they take a piece of wood and cover the window with. Why can't they replace that window with a piece of glass? I think the contractors that have been hired, you guys need to give them some instructions. They should have a standard set of rules that they should be going by. One contractor shouldn't be doing something that the others. There should be a guideline, that you should be using to go by. If I go into Sally's house, Sally should have the same thing done to her house when that contractor comes in there. I shouldn't have a dirty commode and Sue got a brand new commode. I shouldn't have a small sink that I can just barely put my head in, and John got a big old sink and a whole sheet of sheetrock. It shouldn't be that. So you guys need to do something about that, because, you're sending people out there that are not doing the jobs that they're supposed to be doing. And if I go to the meetings and come back, they're expecting me to come back with good news. Something that, and I want to have a word. So therefore, you guys have to have a word with me when I come to the meetings, that I can give them the accurate information, because I encourage IFA members to sign up for Shelter and Home program. And some of them ran right out and did just that. But then I get a phone call and they tell me what they got. And it comes back on me. Something needs to be done, and done quickly.
Thank you for those concerns. We hear you. Go ahead and give her a clap. We hear you. And you are correct. Our contractors should be doing the same thing. Okay, I know some of us have seen some of the horror stories in the media, so on and so forth. We have since then rectified those issues, and we're giving our contractors additional training. Now, that's not to say that going forward, you're not going to have some bumps in the road, but I will tell you that we will attempt to fix whatever we can. As you know, with sheetrock, under the program, we're not allowed to do it under the federal parameters. Okay, we're allowed to make sure that you have a wall separating bathrooms and any room. Okay, so as it relates to sheetrock, as I understand right now, we're not allowed to do that under this particular program. But footprints and commodes not being sealed appropriately, that's unacceptable. Okay. And we have gone in and attempted to address those issues. So continue to farm those concerns to us. We are monitoring the contractors to make sure that they are doing the same things and going about it the same way. And what we are addressing with them is that, hey, this is more than just going in and building. Guess what? Folks have been impacted by this disaster. So you need to have some level of social skills in order to interact and make sure people are informed about what's going on in their properties. And so there's a sensitivity there. Most contractors, subcontractors, it may not be passed down because the subcontractors are not the general contractor. But we're going to hold the general contractors accountable to their subcontractors to make sure that it is passed down appropriately. So continue to sign up for the Shelter at Home program. We will get this thing right. It's been a little bit over 3 weeks. And we have over 19,000 applications, and we want to attempt to touch all of them, okay?
Okay, the ones that have already signed for the Shelter and Home program, and it's substandard work that's done, what do we need to do to get that corrected? Because at this point, it's not livable to them.
Right.
And they don't want to bring their families into that. And you have children. And what, I'm going to put up a bed and then put mattresses down on this floor, on this bed, this air mattress. They can only do 1 bedroom. And I got 3 or 4 children, so everybody's going to pile up in that one room, huh? And then there are no walls in the rest of the house.
Right.
There's just one wall in the room, no closure at all. Bathroom has a door on it. So can they say, well, I don't want this. You've done the work. I don't want this. Is this going to be held against me?
No, ma'am, it should not. Again, the contractors, their job is to go in and do a full evaluation of the property. Now, and it's not just limited to one room, but there are some guiding parameters. But if there is shoddy work going on, here, take down this number, call us. We will get the contractor to come back out along with our inspection staff to make sure that it is done appropriately. That's 1-800-927-0216. And again, Casey just mentioned to me, remember, each one of these properties must have a final inspection, okay? Must have a final inspection. What you've possibly seen in the news, those would not have passed final inspection. And so we want to make sure that we are clear that once that work is completed, we want to make sure that the toilets are there, the electrical outlets, they will not pass final inspection unless it's done up to code. That is 1-800-927-0216.
And let me just add, if you are one of those individuals or you know someone, make sure you let me know that today. I want to know that today. You can call the number, but I want to know that today, and I want to know the address today.
I saw it. I saw the work that they was doing in my neighbor's house, and I didn't want them to come in my house because it wasn't livable. I mean, I really saw it. He said, "This is ridiculous what they're doing to my house." I mean, it's just the truth, And the contractor, I talked to the contractor that was doing it, and he said that they're only allowed to do so much in one room. They're gonna put a wall here, wall right here, this side empty, one plug right here. And he said that it's supposed to be up to $15,000, see, but that's not for everybody. Only you might get $6,000. And the work that I saw them do, it wasn't even $500. I mean, I'm just being honest. That's what I saw. So, I told him, well, don't come in my house because, I'm not going to bring my wife in there and she got a big old wall sitting up there looking at her and things can come in.
Understood. Point well taken. But what I will say, getting back to the intent, we want to make sure that we keep in our minds the intent of the program. And so it is a temporary solution. It's not for everybody. If it's shoddy work, we don't want that. That's one thing. But our job as well is to manage expectations. This is not the all end all. This is to jumpstart the process until we have more long-term recovery options available.
Yes, me and my husband got here a little late, so I don't know if y'all answered this question already, but my house is located off of Greenwood Spring Road. It's Green Tree. A lot of the homes receive 8 to 9 feet of water. My house was one of them. They would saying that they were going to raise the house or FEMA coming in to buy us out. I want to know what kind of direction can I take? Are y'all coming in to buy the whole area out right there? Or what's happening? I need to know what to do. Should I start redoing things in my house or sell my house? I just needed some direction.
So I think this is a similar conversation that we had earlier, right? Y'all in the same general area? That's what it sounded like. Okay. So let me just try to make this as short and quick as I can. If the city parish comes and reviews your house and declares that you're substantially damaged and gives you a letter saying that this property is substantially damaged, and most of the houses in the area have already received that. Okay, you haven't gotten yours yet? Okay, so that's something still to come. In terms of where we are today, it's going to be some time before the programs that could potentially mitigate, either through elevation or acquisition of a property, come online, and that we figure out what money we have today, what money we may additionally receive from Congress. So the first step is to clean out the house and get it dry, and then the second step is to find an interim housing solution, either through shelter at home or manufactured housing unit or rental resources, so that you've got some time to evaluate what your options are. What monies did you receive from either insurance or FEMA or potentially SBA? And then if you're going to be required to elevate then that would be something that you would talk to the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security about. They're maintaining a list, and I can get your information afterwards and connect you with them. And then what will happen is once we find out what funding is available, we'll talk to the parish and work through their list of how we're going to work through that. But unfortunately, a lot of that is yet to be figured out. And so right now the goal is get the house cleaned out and dry and find an interim housing solution so that you have some time to evaluate what those options are. I wish that we had a more clear and direct answer to that, but we're waiting to figure some things out with funding from Congress and other places.
Yes, hi. I had FEMA, I have an issue with the FEMA representative that came into my home. I had a FEMA representative that came into my home. He was supposedly be a licensed contractor. He didn't have a tape measure, a beam to measure anything into the home. He stayed in my home maybe 5 minutes. I had a sewer backup in all 3 of my bathrooms, in my washroom, hallway, and the kitchen, under the kitchen cabinets, and throughout the whole area. This guy came in, he stayed in possibly 5 minutes, and he left. I was denied because they said that I had chosen that I had flood insurance, so I had to go in and send in all my documents and information to establish that I did not have flood insurance at that particular time. So they granted me $1,400 to repair my kitchen cabinets, bathrooms, and my vanity and my master bedroom closet. I contacted DPW. They came out with a contractor that also went through the whole process. This guy must have stayed in maybe an hour and a half measuring everything and the damages within my home. And then the homeowner's insurance personnel, they sent out somebody to do the same thing. Their determination came up to $15,000 to $17,000 when FEMA granted me $1,400 and something dollars. What do I do? Go back and appeal and send in my contractor information from DPW and the homeowner's insurance?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Appeal, if you ever disagree with anything FEMA comes up with. Now, our contractors look at flood-related damage. What did the flood for this disaster cause in your home? I'm not a contractor, so I don't know what he or she saw when they came in. However, you disagree with it, obviously, yes, and you've done the right thing. The next step would be to get your contractor, their estimates, and visit our disaster recovery center, bring those things in with them. Let us send that to FEMA for you so that we can then compare the two. And then if there has to be another inspection, then we'll send out a second inspector to look at that. But that's the correct conduit, and you're on the right track with it. Just visit one of the disaster recovery centers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No problem. My question is in reference to the shelter at home and the manufactured home. My property was substantially damaged. I live in East Feliciana Parish, and I want to know if I get shelter at home, do I have to get some kind of clearance from the local officials before they can come in and do whatever they do? And I'm in a flood zone, so can I have shelter at home in a flood zone? That's my question, and because our local officials, thank God none of them are here, they're a little on the wacky side. Okay, well, I'm saying it like this because they have given us a hard time in the past, and I don't expect any different thing to happen with this situation. So I just want to be clear. So once we get this stuff in place, I don't want local officials to come out and say, well, hey, you didn't contact me about this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. So I want to be upfront. I want to make sure everything is right before I accept shelter at home or accept a mobile home.
Shelter at home, yes, you will be eligible for the program with no problems.
Okay, now with the mobile home, still with being in the flood area, I'll still be eligible for the mobile home.
Yes, you would be eligible, but the local officials still have permitting rules that are going to apply to the manufactured housing unit, and that may depend, they may have some specific rules depending on where the site is. So let's say that your own property is within the town of Clinton, perhaps, but the manufactured housing unit can't go there. It needs to go, somewhere outside and maybe in the parish. And so those local officials are going to have some guidelines on, and FEMA works directly with them in terms of installation. But there are a few steps to go through. That's what makes manufactured housing units take a little bit longer to come online. But generally, the only places that they're prohibited are within a floodway, which means just right next to where a river would flow, or a coastal zone. We don't have that issue to deal with. But there are some local permitting steps that have to be taken.
Okay, one last question. On the surveying, I know in our parish we are asked to pay for a surveyor to come out to get a flood certificate. Is that something that's normal, or how does that work?
Specific to that, so they've given you the letter saying your property is substantially damaged.
Correct.
Okay, so do you have flood insurance?
Yes.
So I would, before I go, what they're, I think, asking you to do is to provide an elevation certificate for the property.
Correct.
And the surveyor would go do that elevation certificate. I would talk to my flood insurance company first. They probably got one on file when you got the policy. But I would talk to them first. You may have some.
There is a Louisiana Association of Professional Surveyors, and they have an information line and a website. So when you go to their website, it's got a map of Louisiana, which is interactive. You can click on your region. It's divided up into regions, and a list will come up of everyone who is in that region, and they are a member of that professional association, which speaks to their credentials and their licensing, and their phone number and their email address, so that you can use that information accordingly to look around and find one that will give you a good rate on getting that work done.
So the answer to my question is yes, it's up to the homeowner to pay for that?
Depending on the jurisdiction, it could be yes. But I would talk to my flood insurance company first to see if they already have it on file.
Okay.
They may have your property on file, the elevation certificate for your property on file, and I would start there before I go pay for a new one.
So the clarification on that, it has to do with when your policy was written and what map was in existence at the time the survey was done. If that survey and elevation certificate was made at an earlier time when an earlier map was in effect, your local floodplain official may ask you to get a survey and a certificate for the current map. And there's actually a difference in some of the reference datum. That's a datum that establishes where sea level is, and everything's measured from that between one map and another. So that's why they may require you to get a new certificate. But that's going to be, as far as permitting process and as far as an underwriting process, it's going to be on an individual basis, and also affected by, whether or not you're under the same map all the way through when you had your old certificate made and today. Okay. So, and if the existing certificate should be valid, most likely your insurance company will have a copy of that on file from when they underwrote your existing policy. If you're required to get a new certificate, generally speaking, it is the homeowner that has to pay for the certificate.
Thank you.
On the permit, at the permit office, should they have a copy there of the certificate?
We do have some copies of certificates. You can also go. We do have some copies of elevation certificates. We don't have them all. You can also go, I think, to the Department of Agriculture's website and you can generally get a pretty good idea there what your house elevation is.
Okay, if we have all that, the documents for that, where do we start at getting a permit? Who do we see and?
Well, you can just go down to the permit office, and it's on Laurel Street there at Florida, or it's on Florida, I guess, between Florida and Laurel, the permit office. And
Okay, we've been denied.
You've been
really
denied a permit.
Really no answers on why.
Did they determine you were substantially damaged?
Yes, they did.
Okay, well, we can't issue a permit for a substantially damaged home.
So what do we do next? What will be our next step?
Well, your next step, do you have insurance?
Yes.
You need to contact your insurance company.
Sir, are you trying to figure out in terms of the next steps, in terms of how you began to rebuild?
Yes.
Because at this point, then chances are well, I guess a couple of things. We have to kind of wait to see what happens here. But in your area, like the other areas that was substantially damaged, then it may be coming down the pipeline where those houses may be actually bought out. So I would not encourage you at this point, honestly, to even try to rebuild until we kind of have a better idea in terms of what's going to happen. But you can't, because the city won't allow you to build because it's been declared substantially damaged, and that means that you're definitely in a very high-prone area where it's been a consistent problem, I would assume.
Yes.
Okay, so there's going to be a program from the state. There's going to be a program, but it's administered by the state. We get our money from the state for homes that have repetitive damage. We don't know how much we're going to get. Once we get that program, then we're going to go through and look at what homes that we can purchase, buy out, etc. But that's down the road some.
Okay, well, how do we get on that list to make sure that we're...
Well, if you're substantially damaged and you've flooded before, you'll be on the list.
But, sir, do you have somewhere now that you're staying? Are you participating through either the rental assistance program, or you signed up for the manufactured homes?
We've signed up for the manufactured home there.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Uh,
This is what we're going to do, so we can kind of begin to start wrapping things up. I know that this lady has been standing, these two ladies right here, this lady and this lady, and then we'll take these two, and then we're going to wrap up. That's good, Pastor?
That's fine. I mean, if they want to go and eat, they can talk to them personally in that cafeteria, in the gymnasium, if you want to do it that way, where they just can, all they have a question, you can go to them personally. And we're going to pray over this food and bless it so we can eat.
Okay. Well, let's take this lady and this lady and this lady, and then we'll ask everybody else to do their questions in the back, if they don't mind.
Okay, I have a question for FEMA. I live in the Glen Oaks area, and at the time of the flood, I was living with my niece and her husband, and we had to take a boat out the house. It was so bad. But my bedroom was the only bedroom that got really damaged. Everything that I own, I lost it, including my Bible. And so when the FEMA lady came out to interview him, he only put on the claim that he filed, he only put himself, his wife, and his baby. He didn't put me on the claim. So the FEMA lady told me to file a separate claim. And that's what I did. I filed a separate claim. And they sent me a letter back, and they denied me. And they said that the reason why they denied me was because they had someone from that address filed a claim already. So I'm trying to figure out, what should I do? I'm homeless. I don't have nowhere to stay. I'm trying to figure out, what should I do? I lost everything. What should I do?
Thank you for your question. You were paying rent
Yes.
in that?
Yes.
Okay. You need to appeal that.
Okay.
Appeal that decision. and it may require a statement from
I got all
your
that. I got it.
your landlord in this case, which is your family,
Yeah.
to do that. But I would file an appeal, drop by DRC or file an appeal with that document, and because you did have personal property that you lost, you would need to go through the SBA process, as Gard mentioned a little bit ago. Remember, that's part of the process of receiving any grant for personal property. You must satisfy the SBA process. But they can explain all that to you there. Is that something that you can do?
What about finding, I'm homeless, I don't have nowhere to stay.
What will happen, ma'am, once your appeal, you are displaced by the disaster. Once your appeal goes in, you're going to also request in your appeal for rental assistance to assist you with utilizing those funds to find you a place to live.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
My question and statement is, I'm in the same neighborhood as this lady here, but our neighborhood has been under a buyback program for about 3 years now. They have bought some of the homes. Of course, it didn't get completed. And I did have flood insurance. I kept the flood insurance, but I don't know which way to go. The insurance company is not saying anything, saying FEMA won't let them approve it. FEMA saying the insurance company, my Allstate flood insurance, has to approve it. I don't know which one is which. I've applied for the SBA loan. We're just sitting in limbo, and I know I don't want to repair because those houses were being bought out. So it makes no sense for me to repair that home, and the next flood come away, it's going to do the same thing because FEMA told me those houses will be bought out. But it's been 3 years already, so how long does it take for that completion, to buy out those houses? I have a mortgage I still have to keep paying.
The money comes from the state. We're the subrecipient. The state gets a certain amount of money and they spread it out through the entire state. So we have, I don't know, the last few years, we've maybe bought out like 4 or 5 houses only. Right.
It takes too long. You can't expect me to fix that house up, and the bank can't expect me to keep paying mortgages on it. It's not livable. It will be torn down.
You have flood insurance?
Yes, I had flood insurance.
FEMA doesn't want to keep rebuilding the house either.
And
they don't want to keep using their money to keep for the insurance. So
but that's why I had flood insurance, to kind of make myself whole should this happen.
We're going to, hopefully with this particular disaster, we're going to get more money to buy those houses out. But that's all dependent upon what's coming from Congress.
That's what I'm saying. It shouldn't matter with my case. I have flood insurance. I should not have to be waiting on FEMA to buy that house out. My Allstate flood insurance should be making me whole, which it is not. I'm waiting on FEMA. I shouldn't have to be.
Why are you waiting on FEMA?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. FEMA runs the flood insurance program. My insurance agent is telling me FEMA runs the flood insurance program, and they have to do what FEMA says. So why can't my insurance agent approve me and pay off my mortgage loan?
Yeah, so let's talk right after this, because it sounds like, we've got some discussion about what can happen down the road and how that will work. The first step is if you've got flood insurance, getting the claim for your property processed and clarified for you. So let's talk about that offline so that we can get your information and figure out how to get the flood insurance piece moving.
Okay, my question is similar to the young lady there. I'm in a flood zone, and it's repeatedly. I've been there for 35 years, and this is the first time, personally, we have been flooded, but everybody else around us, because we're the last house in the neighborhood to build, so we built above the 100-year flood zone. So now that this is happening, and this is my first time hearing it, what sense does it make for us to try to rebuild or try to do anything when we know that there's a possible buyout? But no one is telling us that. So the people thinking that they should try to do something to their homes, we personally said we weren't going back because it's too much sweat, it's too much tears, It's too much tiresome. It wears you out. I'm in that senior citizen category. So why should I keep doing this? Why should he keep doing this? Why should the rest of the residents do this? Why don't somebody tell us that there's a program that is going to work for you, that you don't have to do that? I had flood insurance. My flood insurance has sent the check. We have sent the check back, signed the check, and waiting for the balance of it to come to us. Why should I keep on? Why don't y'all tell us, somebody tell us something?
Good question. I think, and let me be more clear if I wasn't clear earlier. For those of you that are in a property that's substantially damaged, for those of you that are in a property that is flooded multiple times, it may not make sense to go back and repair that property. So my guidance to you is, let's find a stable living situation for now to give you the time and the space to figure out what options you have down the road. The challenge with today saying this is exactly what will happen in the future is we don't know how many properties will fall into that category. So we don't know exactly what the need is going to be. And then secondly, we don't know how much money we're going to have available to us to do and execute some of those programs. So while it would certainly be the intent of the state and the local government to make those programs come online and work for you so that you don't have to rebuild a house that's flooded multiple times and may not be safe, or elevate a house that you don't want to elevate if that's what you're required to do. Today we can't say exactly how much money, how much need is out there, and how long that will take. So the first step is get the house gutted out, dried out, find a stable living situation while we continue the dialogue and to work on your behalf to come online with those solutions. And what I'm trying to say, I guess, more clearly is you should wait. You should wait to see what those options are. Not everybody's able to wait, and that's understandable, but let's find through rental resources, shelter at home, or manufactured housing a stable interim living situation that gives you the space to wait and figure out what those options are. That's the best I can do. I hope that helps a little bit.
Okay, while you're standing, question for you, FEMA. I have a couple members here at IFA who has a recreational vehicle, like a mobile home, and they've gone out to, and some are anticipating on getting something else to live in. Is there a program that can assist them with that fee that they're having to pay because they're trying to get back home, rather than going through your manufacturing program, my personal, that I can use, that you can give me some funds toward that recreational home?
Sure. So the way that would work is that would have to be something that would fall into the category that rental assistance from FEMA would assist with. The challenge is the people that own these things aren't in the business of leasing them out month to month or long-term leases. Typically, they're wanting you to, they're used to leasing them out for a weekend, for a road trip to a football game or something like that.
If I went out and purchased one, I say, I want to purchase one so I can get back home.
Right.
Can I get some assistance with that?
So the way that would work today is the only assistance that I'm aware of, and I'll let FEMA correct me if I'm wrong, is the initial rental resources that you receive, which is typically 2 months. That would be an eligible use of those 2 months. But as a purchase of the unit, you wouldn't be eligible for continued rental resources moving forward. So the initial rental resources would be eligible to use to defer some of the cost of that, but it wouldn't be eligible for long-term rental resources unless it was actually a rental situation.
Again, I would like to thank all of our panelists. Please join me in giving them a hand of applause. I certainly want to thank Pastors Johnson, Pastor Gavaris Johnson, and Dr. Shannon Johnson for always being a light in the community. you guys are the first one that asked me as a church to actually host a meeting after service, and I thought it's a wonderful idea because you do have that captured audience already that's there. And so this may be something new that I do, so to make sure that we're getting information out. Let me encourage you with this because we heard you. I want you to know we heard you very loud and clearly. And as you have seen things change from the very beginning, like when things were first announced in terms of how the process was going to work, because of meetings, because of what we've heard, there have been a lot of modifications. And I can tell you, I believe that there will continue to be modifications as we continue to hear you and hear your voice. There's been a lot of things said here today that make sense, that we're going to take back and make sure that we convey that information. And, you know, my good friend William talked about the state and he getting his stuff from the state, and that's true, but we're getting our stuff from the feds. So, you know, it's a process. And so we have to send it up to the federal government. And I have to tell you, we may need some of you at some point to chime in or to write a letter so that we can send it to our federal government to let them know in terms of the practicality of what's happening and the implications of what's happening. Because sometimes people they don't know. I mean, and they don't know unless we tell them. And so this is a good way of informing them and letting them know. Lastly, I would like to say before we get ready to go and eat, because I'm ready to eat too, the Shelter at Home program, initially when I heard about the program, I thought it was an excellent program because at the end of the day, I know that everybody, you know, you want to go back to your own home, regardless of what it is, it's yours and you want to go back to it. And when we first started the program, I think we kind of put out information that made it appear as if it would be a place that would kind of make you somewhat whole. It doesn't. It gets you started. And one of the things that I said to the company, to the lead contractors, I said, we need to change the messaging because this gets you started. And what you could do is the other additional money that you're receiving from FEMA, if you've been able to put up a half a wall, if they allow you to do the one wall or whatever, then maybe you can go ahead and take some of that money to do the rest of the room. There are some other things that I've heard as it relates to the contractors that I would like to discuss in terms of the multiple contractors that I'm going to visit with them about. But I would like to say to you, if you own a business, if you have any kind of business, it doesn't matter what it is, I need you to let me know that because this is an opportunity where you can have a chance to participate in the rebuilding of your own community. And so one of the things I have made very loud and clear to those individuals who have received a contract and they are subbing some of the work out is that I want to make sure that local contractors are getting this work. But there's a lot of different moving pieces, and so it doesn't matter what your area of expertise may be in terms of business. There may be some use for it, but if we don't know that you exist, then we can't make sure that you're connected. So please make sure that we have that information. I know that I had two of my assistants here. I don't see them now. Andrea, oh, there they are. Will y'all please stand? So Andrea Scott and Tina Keller, they are here. And so make sure you see them in the back and give them any information as it relates to if you need to have your house gutted, if you have shoddy work that's happened to your home. I want to know that today. You don't have to call the 800 number because we will make sure that all that is taken care of. So with that said, again, Pastor, I just can't thank you guys enough for always being right in the center and being the heart for the community, ensuring that people get what they need. That's so very important. So we thank you for being able to play a small role in that. But we are here for the long role. We're going to go over there with you guys. And anybody who has a question, these ladies and gentlemen have agreed to stay until you have your questions answered.
Amen. We're going to pray over the food, and I also want to say, I want to thank Senator Regina Barrow for being such a great senator in this region for us. Amen. Y'all give our senator a hand. Amen. And I want to thank this panel, this team, and y'all came out in numbers that mean a lot to the folks that are out there asking questions. So we want to thank y'all for answering the questions, and God bless you. You had one more question before I pray, Minister?
I want to know, everybody that that's here, we want to make sure that you signed in that roster. If you did not sign in, make sure that, I'm going to put someone at this door here. As you go through that door, make sure that you sign in on the roster. And as some of the presenters were doing their presentation, we passed out some information to you. One of them was from Volunteers of America for furniture. You said you need some furniture. Fill that application out. If you have any questions, you can give me a call because they're asking about a referring agency. I need to get some clarity on that referring agency. So let's make sure that we fill this application out, timely. Don't go home and put it on the dresser, on the chair somewhere because, we got temporary housing and that little sheet of paper get lost. Let's fill that out and get it back to the right agency. And then I also handed out a Fair Housing Action Center. It has some good information in there, resources for you. So let's read that while we laying up watching TV, a little bit tonight. Let's read this, get this information. It's going to answer some of these questions for you. All of us don't have access to computers and the iPhone, the smartphones to get this information. Read this tangible information. Go back to old school. Read this information so you can be up on what's doing and dial those numbers and ask questions. You may be on hold for a while, but you hold on. Put it on speaker and do something else while it's on speaker. But don't hang up because you have to start over all again. Senator Barrow, I really, really thank you. The relationship that we have built with you here at Faith Assembly. And I thank Pastor for allowing me to go forth along with my workers that are here. Where's Sister Pam? Sister Frances Tosin, let the people see. These are people that are working with us. IFA, stand, please. Where is Sister Cassandra Wilson? Where is she? Where is she? Disappeared on me? She just walked through the door. Sister Donna Barrow. They're all here. And then I have a group that's in the kitchen back there, in the gym, that's making sure that everything is ready for you when you go over there. So you greet them when you go over there and thank them for their hospitality. I appreciate you, Pastor.
That might.
I love it. Pastor is good. He'll collect all the mics. But I want to thank Minister Ann Brown and her team. They have been excellent. But when she got up and spoke, she reminded me of two things that I want to say. Number one, please make sure you do sign the sign-in sheet. We are creating a database where we can provide information on a weekly basis. So we're going to send you some information where you can possibly call in and you can hear what's happening, get an update. Then secondly, there is a moratorium that has been declared in this region. When the governor, when the president did the declaration and the governor declared that we had a disaster here, a moratorium went into place as it relates to mortgages. It's not automatic, though. You need to still call your mortgage company and see what can be worked out. Different mortgage companies are doing different things. Some of them are giving you a 90-day extension and allowing a balloon payment at the end of the 90 days, which I'm not in favor of. But then some are doing it and allowing you to put it at the end of the mortgage payment. And other companies are giving you a certain amount of time, but you have to call them. So that may help some of you who are still paying your mortgage payment. Call your mortgage company and see what can be done. You may be able to do a forbearance. There are just multiple things that are out there because the declaration has been declared, so you can get some alleviation as it relates to paying that mortgage payment, at least maybe for the next 90 days.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. I just want to thank you. I'm a member of a disaster survivor assistance team, and I think I speak for all of us who've met you in the field. You've been so gracious to us, and we thank you for your reception. We've seen such resilience and your strength that's built on your faith, the faith that the Lord's instilled in you, and the optimism. It's incredible in the face of an adversity that most of you have never seen. In all my years in working in disaster, I have not seen this either. I just want to thank you, and I want to give you one more R. That's rejoice. In addition to those R's. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to pray over the food, and when y'all go through that double door, our The wood over there's kind of wop. Watch how you're walking over there. Don't trip. The water got under it, so I'm just making sure I'm say that so if somebody trip over there, they know I already said that the wood is whopped over there. Father, we thank you for this meal. We ask you to bless it, sanctify it through word and prayer in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen.